My number one pet peeve is vocal fry.
It does tend to have two very diametrically opposite impressions that it makes on people. The one being the, oh, whatever, I'm too good for you. Why am I even wasting my time with you? But on the other hand, it also projects the, oh, is it okay? I don't know if you're going to want to hear what I have to say. So or just, for some people, it's like, it sounds like you haven't slept in about 6 weeks and you've been smoking 2 packs a day since you were 7. So none of which says, I want to project authority and approachability and all those kinds of things.
Hey, welcome everybody. So have you ever had a conversation where afterwards you found all those right words that you wish you had said, right? Don't you hate that? It's so
I hate that.
Or worse, maybe you have the words and maybe they just didn't land, right? You were maybe ignored or dismissed. Why do you think that is, right? Is it your voice? Is it your presence or lack thereof? Is it your delivery? Is it all of these things and more? Today's guest, Dr. Laura Sicola, is an author, a speaker, a communication expert. She has your answer. Because for the last 15 years, she has been helping people understand that everything about them can either help or hurt every time they open their mouths to speak. And today, she's going to do that for you. Doctor, thank you for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Please call me Laura.
Knowing you were coming today, I was joking around about it before we actually started the recording, but I was thinking, how can I have executive presence in meeting Laura? Because that's kind of your gig, right? That's what you talk about. That's the TED Talk I watched, really, and I loved it. But I was wondering, maybe we could kind of start there. What exactly is executive presence, and how can people gain it if they don't already have it?
Sure. I think it's such an important question because a lot of people go, well, I'm not an executive per se in my job, so maybe it's not relevant for me. And I really want to debunk that myth, because whether you call it executive presence or leadership presence or command presence or whatever, the idea is when you talk, do they feel internally compelled to listen? Is there just something about the way that you're connecting with them that allows them to focus and hear both what you intend and what you say? So that's really the key. And there's what I like to call the 3 C's of executive presence, which is the ability to command the room, connect with the audience, and close the deal. So that's sweet and simple.
And how did you come to those? What's your background? Like, how did you get to the 3 C's?
Actually, as phrased, those just came to me one day. I was thinking about it, and they kind of popped in my head about maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And I went, yes, that, sometimes you're thinking about something forever and it's all over the place, and then suddenly it just crystallizes. And that was a good one when I knew that I shared it with a colleague, and she kind of perked up and went, say that again. Wait, say that again. I went, that's the reaction you want, because you know that the light bulb went off in somebody's head. That's what we want. And I'm a cognitive linguist by background. So my research was all looking at what is it that what you say, the way you say it, that makes what you say go in one ear and come out the other, or go in and stick and rattle around and do something hopefully useful in the brain of the other person. And so looking at how that translates to what creates the gap between what you think you said and what they think they heard, right. Well, that's something that people are interested in. So here we are.
Yeah.
So cool.
So let me ask a quick question since we're on the 3 C's. So command, connect, and close. Let's just go to connect, because we all know number one's public speaking is a number one fear for most people. So connecting at the very basic level is eye contact with whomever you're speaking to. But there's a mountain of difference between just connecting, looking at you and connecting with you, and commanding the room. How do you bridge that gap well for people who are very uncomfortable just speaking?
Sure. Well, it's important to recognize that this is not just about public speaking in the traditional sense. Like, I'm public speaking here, we got microphones and all that fancy equipment. But it's any conversation you have where you're talking to someone other than yourself, that's public speaking. So a one-on-one could be a more formal presentation, could be a meeting. If you have an idea that you want to convey to somebody else and you want them to get it,
right,
that's public speaking. And it can be to your family, to your colleagues, to anybody, not just in the official job work environment. So connecting with the audience very simply means finding a way to establish a mutual understanding that you understand me and I understand you. We can be from totally opposite ends of the planet, but somehow we nod our heads at each other and we go, okay, I get you, you get me on at least one thread. And that's what we're going to work forward.
If you're speaking to an audience or you're speaking to one-on-one, is there a way to make sure that you command their attention?
So I'm going to give you the most annoying teacher answer ever, which
Yes.
is it always depends.
Because
it does.
I knew it was
And
coming.
That's the point. So think of it this way. One of the biggest mental blocks that we often have where we get in our own way is we want to be ourselves, right? But we also want to be able to get through to all sorts of different kinds of people. And we get stuck nowadays on this big word, authenticity. And it's like, well, I got to be me. That's authentic. That's not authentic. Authentic doesn't mean unfiltered, number one. And authentic to be yourself. You're not a monolithic black or white. This is me. That's not me. Right? I mean, I have an 8-year-old. I don't talk to him like this.
Right.
Doesn't match. But it's not that one of these is the real me and one of these is fake. I just know that that's my mommy voice. And, this is my coach, my speaker, my trainer kind of voice because of what I'm talking about and who I'm talking to. So I'm going to adjust. And the analogy, Stacey, you mentioned you saw my TED Talk that I like to use is the prismatic voice.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that.
So your prismatic voice, you ever have one of those little crystal-y things that hangs from maybe a rear view mirror or your kitchen window? Sunlight hits it, rainbow comes out the other side, and you see it on the wall. Same way, you are that white light, the sunlight, and you've got all those colors in you. It's just a matter of what's the prism of the event or the moment that you're having with somebody, and what color that's part of you needs to shine forward most. When I'm talking to my 8-year-old, we'll call it my yellow, my mommy voice is going to shine more brightly because he doesn't need to see this side of me. You don't need as much of my yellow, so I'm going to tone that part down, and I'm going to come up with a little bit more of my professional, authoritative, whatever conversation language, and we'll call that my purple. So it's not that I'm hiding either. It's just one's not relevant for the context. So I'm going to turn up the part that's more relevant, turn down it. It's all authentic. It's just contextually relevant, and that's what's going to help me connect with you.
So how are people hurting themselves unknowingly? Right? How are they compromising?
A lot of binary thinking, the black or white, this is me, that's not me. Or I've heard, for example, a lot of women in power roles will talk to me and be frustrated and say, well, I have this reputation for being too aggressive or too intimidating or something like that. And they'll say, I've tried being nice and that didn't work. So what am I supposed to do? That's binary thinking, right? I can be strong or I can be nice. Where did those two options come from, and why are they considered to be not compatible? Why can't you? That's the role of diplomacy, right? How can you make a point without making an enemy? That's really what tact is about, finding a way to flavor, to phrase, to shape that assertive, intentional, deliberate, decisive, in some ways where necessary, non-negotiable side, but in a way that doesn't crush the other person's soul or doesn't completely dismiss their viewpoint or their other pressures or their concerns, etc. How do you balance how do you respect the integrity of the relationship and the integrity of the message at the same time? So to find a way where you are clear, they have understood what you need them to understand, but in a way that still doesn't, as I mentioned before, crush them, where you still say, okay, I need to correct you. I need to help you. I need you to do X, Y, or Z. But you don't feel like I'm talking down to you. You don't feel like I've disrespected you. You still feel like you appreciate my guidance and leadership. You may not like what I had to say, but you can receive it as intended.
I feel like I am your perfect client because I do. I feel like I have to call you immediately because I have been told in the past I'm way too casual. However, it makes me feel extremely, extremely uncomfortable having a vocal executive presence is what you call it. So what do you do with me?
You don't have to suddenly put on a new persona and be strong and be more formal. Some people like to swear. Not me, never. I've never used a bad word in my life. So, but, just for those out there who hypothetically may have ever used that, we recognize there's a context where it's okay and there's a context where it's not.
Right.
In a prospecting meeting with the client, probably not so much. Out at a football game with a bunch of buddies, I'm expecting it to get colorful. So, but it's not, again, that it's me or not me. It's recognizing that doesn't work for my ultimate purpose in this conversation here on this podcast. So I'm choosing to just put that set of vocabulary aside. What is your ultimate goal for the conversation? Then reverse engineer how you want to approach that conversation to get there more effectively.
So so I'm sitting here thinking somebody listening right now, probably many people listening right now, are about to have a conversation, right?
Makes sense.
With their boss or with their spouse or something along those lines. But I think you answered my question. Give them the framework. You're the expert. Give them the framework for how to speak with influence to that person that they may be nervous to speak to. And maybe it is let them know what your goal is and reverse engineer. I like that. But is there a framework, or what are the questions they need to ask themselves?
I'm glad that you framed it that way. What are the questions that people need to ask themselves first? Because they don't. Most people enter into a conversation from the very short-sighted perspective of, what do I want to say? Mm-hmm. And then they just go in whatever comes out of their mouth in open mouth, turn on fire hose method, or open mouth trickle of drops, because that's all that they can seem to put together. Either way, it's very unidirectional. Think of a conversation as a journey. And if you get in your car to take that journey and you turn on your GPS and say, go, what's going to happen? Nothing, because it's going to say, go where? What's your desired destination? So in your conversational GPS, you need to start with deciding, what is the destination? Where do you want to go with this person? There's 3 levels of impact that we have in every conversation that we have: emotional, cognitive, and behavioral. Meaning, at the end of this exchange, how do I want this person to feel? What do I want them to think, understand, know, believe, etc.? And how do I want them to respond or behave? Short-term or long-term, either way. But you need to get to that cognitive and emotional if you are going to have the strongest likelihood of getting to that behavioral level first. So if you can think through about, okay, what's the nature of this conversation? Is it something that you're trying to pitch an idea to them that they're really excited about and you want them to get excited too? Is it where, this one's going to be a little sensitive and you want to just make sure that you're not ruffling any feathers? Are they a client? What's the nature of the relationship? How sensitive do you have to be? So bearing in mind all of those kinds of things, decide the cognitive, emotional, and behavioral impacts that you want to have in the end, and then figure out, okay, how do I need to show up? How do I need to approach this conversation in order to get them to that final destination with me? Think about that prismatic voice piece. Do I need to allow my fun side to come out a little bit more? Do I need to have my very sensitive and delicate side coming through? Are they going to take it really sensitive? Are they going to be super personally sensitive about it? In which case, okay, let's just make sure that you understand I'm not angry at you. I need to keep my voice more even keel and just check every now and then. Do a lot of things like what are called contrasting statements. Like, look, don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not upset with you. I'm not whatever else. I just want to make sure you understand these kinds of things, where it's not X, but Y. So those kinds of little structures can help if you want to make sure you don't have to talk the person down off the ledge afterward. So again, who is it? Where are they coming from? Where do you want them to go? Then calculate the route.
I like that. I'm not. It sort of diffuses the bomb before the bomb is ever built.
I'm not trying to be cruel, but that as a preface is like, oh, dude, bad. You're so bracing me to say something really cruel.
Right.
It's like,
you're being cruel.
Like, no disrespect, but,
one of those.
Okay,
right.
Good luck with
exactly.
that. But if it's, where you can sense that someone is already mentally going down a certain path that you don't want them to go, you read like they're bracing themselves. You can see their body language or their facial expressions. They're reading something negative into it. You stop. And of course, your voice and your body language and other things are going to reinforce the validity or the invalidity of what you're saying. So it's like, look, please don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to, this is not a chastisement. This is not a whatever else. I need to be able to watch the word but. The word but negates everything before it. But I just want to So take the word but out. I'm not doing this. I just want you to understand that. That's different from I'm not doing this, but I need the but.
Yeah.
That's a grenade.
What about the notion of the audience being a difficult audience? For instance, you have to talk to the bully at your company, on your team. Everyone knows he's a bully. Has never been addressed. But you need to speak with influence to the bully, or speak with influence to the person who's known for overreacting or just having an inappropriate reaction. What do we do there? What are the qualifiers?
Those are really important scenarios to not look for a quick fix answer to. So if I were coaching you in that situation, I would ask you a dozen or maybe 24 questions first to gain more information. So for example, is it a one-on-one conversation you need to have with them, or are you in a meeting with a group of people? Is that group of people one who's used to that bully and is aware of the bully's tactics and habits, or is it someone where you need that bully to not show those colors in the moment, whether it's for everybody's benefit, for your own reputational sake, for something else? How much power does the bully have? What's their relationship with you, with the other people in the room? What are their triggers? Is it just a matter of them needing to sound smart? Are they one of those ego-driven people? It's like, I just need to always sound like the smartest person in the room and prove that I am because you're dumb. That's, how do we feed? So there's so many questions that I'd want to know first before saying, okay, how do we approach this? Is there a way to diffuse the bully before it starts? Or it's coming. You just have to figure out what to do with it when it happens.
So I think what you're saying, because that completely aligns with what you said earlier. There's a lot of pre-work that has to happen before you engage in a conversation. And 90% of that pre-work is asking yourself important questions.
Yes.
That's the prep. So that what comes out of your mouth is tailored to the audience, tailored to the message, and tailored toward the 3 C's: connecting, closing, commanding, connecting, and closing. Absolutely. But that's a lot of work, right, that people don't do. We just, I got to go tell so-and-so such and such, and I hope it goes well.
Right. Well, and here's the question. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Ooh.
Good point.
Oh my gosh, you're so smart. Were you kind of always naturally good at being articulate and speaking your mind in a way that people were commanded? Or is this something you learned?
You worked at it.
Personally?
I think it's a little of both. I think everything is nature and nurture, whatever you're born with, and then to what extent you learn to hone that particular skill. What's funny is my mother will tell the story that when I was little, I was really shy, that I would hide behind her. I didn't like strangers to look at me, to talk to me, anything along those lines. And then as she tells it, she will say, somewhere around 4th grade, Laura found her mouth and nothing was ever the same. So I don't recall that shift. I do remember always being relatively comfortable, at least from, I don't know, middle school on or something, with like class presentations and those kinds of things. I always had fun with those. It never scared me to have to talk in front of the class. So that was something that was comfortable. I think I've gotten better at it. I'd like to think I've gotten better at it. Certainly after several years of podcasting and learning, you can't go on for 10 minutes for an answer. You got to find a way to narrow it down, get to your point, and then here's a thought: stop talking. That was something that was a learned skill.
Yeah. That's a toughie.
We have a phrase in my line of work. We talk about find the nearest period. Just find the period.
I love it.
Stop.
Yes.
At some point, you need to focus on finding the nearest period.
That's good.
Can I jump on that for a second?
Sure.
Because, oh my gosh, you just gave people the biggest value prop of this whole conversation. That one of the pitfalls, you asked me earlier what people do to get in their own way. And one of them is talking in stream of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Most of us talk in run-on sentence mode. We don't know that we do it, but we do. It's like if you've got that friend who sends you the text or the WhatsApp message that is the missive this long, there's no grammar, there's no punctuation, there's no nothing, like your brain can't process what it says. That's how we talk. And it is something that leads to, it's a fodder, it's ground for many other verbal and vocal pitfalls along the way. Everything from upspeak, where you sound like you're asking questions, even when you're not, like I'm doing now, to having a lot of vocal fry and allowing your voice kind of creak out because you haven't stopped to allow yourself to inhale and refuel the tank. It allows tangenting and allows other things. People can't, there's so many things that the run-on sentence is the root cause of all of those other ails. So I love that phrase, and I'm totally going to steal it and I'm going to credit you with it. But yeah, find the nearest period. If you were writing, you would know how to do it. You wouldn't send a paragraph that was 20 lines long and all one sentence. You got to figure out how to do that when you speak too. Changes everything.
Amazing, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Good one.
I had a moment.
Can we talk about upspeak? Because I know there's actually Can we? There's
well, that's a yes or no question, so that's an okay place to put it.
That's right.
So upspeak is, again, it's a tonality pattern where your voice goes up at the ends of all your phrases and sentences, and it tends to be at about the same time in between rises. And in some ways, it is seeking validity. It's implying a tag question like, right? Okay. And if you genuinely want to seek that validation from someone, I recommend you just explicitly ask it. Say, right? Now, you wouldn't say right after every phrase. So similarly, we shouldn't have that inflected request at the end of phrases and of everything.
Great point.
So being able to control that, again, if you've got the run-on sentence, it's a lot of ands in there. To have too many of those request sounding tones in it, you give away your power because it sounds like you're seeking perpetual validation. If I need to be validated by you, you are the authority, not me. So we have to be real careful about not allowing it. It's not to say your voice should never go up. There's a million times when it should. It just shouldn't be like a bird bobbing on the water kind of a thing, where that perpetual, just non-changing pattern. It also it shows insecurity if it sounds like you do perpetually need that validation. Why are you so insecure in yourself that you're asking me all these questions instead of making vocal statements with a vocal period? So you don't want to project that authority or that insecurity if you are feeling it. Why would I tell you verbally, hi, I'm Laura Sicola, nice to meet you, and I just want you to know I'm intimidated by you? Like, I would never say that explicitly, so why would I want to project it unintentionally? And I think part of the reason there's also the perpetuation of it is because nowadays, frankly, anybody on the planet can have a following of 1 million people. So if that's a habit that someone has and it's someone they admire, it's part of a peer group, etc., it can become subconsciously an in-group thing. Most people don't know that they do it, and it's not just young, female, any particular demographic guys out there. I'm very sorry to tell you, a Y chromosome is not a vaccine. Y'all are just as guilty.
And then there's that fry.
That's one of my number one pet peeve is vocal fry.
It does tend to have two very diametrically opposite impressions that it makes on people. The one being the, oh, whatever, I'm too good for you. Why am I even wasting my time with you? But on the other hand, it also projects the, oh, is it okay? I don't know if you're going to want to hear what I have to say. So or just, for some people, it's like, it sounds like you haven't slept in about 6 weeks and you've been smoking 2 packs a day since you were 7. So none of which says, I want to project authority and approachability and all those kinds of things. It's all about breath support. So whether you're a singer or a speaker, or you've probably heard that expression, and this is also why the run-on sentence is the catalyst for yet another ail, so to speak, which is because when you're just talking and talking and talking and you don't allow yourself to inhale again, you run out of gasoline in the tank. If you think about your lungs as being your gas tank, air is your gasoline, your voice box or your vocal cords are the engine. And when your vocal cords are vibrating because there's enough air passing through with an even perpetual flow, you get a nice clear voice, a nice clear resonant sound that comes out. But when you're trying to squeeze blood out of a stone because you've talked for so much and you're not allowing yourself to talk, to breathe and get more, to refill your tank, then that's what it sounds like. You're not supporting it. So we got to be really careful about that. And frankly, in our new Zoom world, where we're all just sitting down all the time, it's very easy to slouch. And so you're compressing your entire torso, and there just isn't room to get a full breath of air to allow for your best voice.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. What would you say to the people that don't? There are a lot of people that don't like their voices.
That is
and
true.
they hate to listen to themselves. And
Yes.
certainly now in this world, to your point, Zoom meetings, just anything. I heard you tell a story on your podcast or in your TED Talk about Margaret Thatcher having to get coaching for her voice when she made a point. She started to shrill. What would you say to the people who just don't like their voices? What can they do right now without getting a coach?
Yeah, what's most important to recognize is that we mentioned earlier the nature-nurture balance. And if you were born with a piccolo, it's never going to sound like a tuba, and vice versa. But you can learn to play it masterfully. So you want to be the best piccolo player or the best tuba player that you can be. And everything we've been describing so far is something that will help you play it more masterfully. So things like making sure that you do allow yourself to inhale and refuel the tank so that you are not just kind of letting the words fall out of your mouth. There's no reason to use vocal fry. I don't care whether you're someone who has a very soft voice naturally or a cannon of a voice. It has nothing to do with volume, because I can talk at a very soft voice and still have it be clear. I don't need to talk in a soft voice and just let the bottom fall out of it. There should be no correlation between the two. Being able to not use upspeak, especially if you're someone who doesn't like that you feel like you've got a squeaky voice, male, female, or otherwise. If you use upspeak, then more of your words at the ends are going to end at that highest pitch. So whatever is your natural range, you keep pointing people towards the upper end of it. Allow yourself to have declarative sentences. Put a period at the end of your sentence. Let your voice drop, as I'm doing now. And that brings people into the root of where you not the basement. That's not what I'm talking about. But to just allow you to sit in your nice, strong chest voice. Not a strong, trying to project some sort of fake authority or using like a Bullwinkle kind of sound. That's not what I'm going for either. But your natural voice, where you are at home in your chest voice, that's what you can learn to project with the greatest authority.
I think a lot comes down to content too. You could have what many would consider an annoying or shrill voice. If you're saying something of value, people are going to listen.
Absolutely. There's a consultant I know here in the Philadelphia area who she has a very high, squeaky kind of voice. She will jokingly refer to herself as a munchkin. But when she walks in to do a corporate training and she commands a nice sum for her fees, she will tell them, people right off the bat, like, let's get one thing straight. This voice doesn't change. So let's move past it and get on with what we came here to do. And that's that. And of course, her voice is a lot higher as she's saying that. Yeah. I won't try to imitate or something, but nevertheless, deal. Right. And I think to the extent that you project, oh my gosh, I hope you're not going to make fun of me because of my voice, and I hate my voice, and you're going to hate my voice, and I don't want you to hear my voice. People will sense that.
Sure.
If that's what you are emotionally leading with. So if you own it, not in a defensive way, like, well, this is my voice, so you're just going to have to live with it, and I don't want to hear. No. You own it. This is you. This is your voice. Use it well. Give me good content, and we'll get to what matters to both of us. Going back to that GPS, calculate the route.
I love that. Go in with confidence and confidence, and the rest will fall in place.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good stuff.
The other thing you talk about is how you introduce yourself and how important that is. And I know that I have worked hard over the years because I've heard that I can slur, especially when I'm in a rush. So I'll say, hi, my name is Stacey Grant, and someone will say, Sissy, Daisy, like they don't know what my name is. So I have started really articulating, my name is Stacey Grant.
Beautiful.
And it feels so silly, like from my perspective.
There's three major pitfalls that people do when introducing themselves that make it hard for the other person to understand and remember what the heck your name is. And why do we introduce ourselves if not to begin a relationship? And that's stronger when your name is clear. And it's awkward when people are like, I'm sorry, what was your name again? I didn't quite catch it. How many times do I have to ask you what your name is? Now I feel weird, so I think I just won't. Number one, saying it too fast. Because maybe you said your name 1,000 times, but nobody else has heard it 1,000 times. And even if it's a simple name like Ann Smith, it's not predictable. So you got to give people's brains a chance to catch up with their ears. So slow it down. It'll feel awkwardly slow to you. It won't sound awkwardly slow to them. That's important. Number two, break it up. Are you giving them a first name and a last name? Put a little break between them so I can hear that there are actually two parts. It helps my brain to process and retain what you've said. And number 3 is the tonality of it. Most people, as you mentioned, slur. They slur it all together with an uprise, that questioning tone, like hi, I'm Laura Sicola. Like, I think. You just kind of want to look at them and say, well, when you figure it out, come back and let me know. All right, that would be great. So to have that rise on the first part and then have it drop on the second. So as you did, I'll do it the same for mine. So I'm Laura Sicola, up and down. Stacy Grant. It's like, there's more, now I'm done. Those are the 2 pieces. It's complete. And if you want to just use your first name, that's fine too. But we still want to have it with that arcing tone. Stacy, period, at the end. Hi, I'm Stacy. And let it go. That helps me hear it.
What's next for you? How can we help you get the word out for what you're trying to do?
I have a book, as a matter of fact. It is called Speaking to Influence, Mastering Your Leadership Voice. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on Audible. I did republish it this past year just because my original publisher sadly went under as a result of COVID. So the cover is different. The new cover is purple. The old one is black. So if you see just the black one, you may think that that's it, but there is no inventory left. The Audible version and the Kindle version are still the old one because they didn't need a new
Right.
paper. So either way. But if you're tired of the sound of my voice, by the way, after this interview, don't get the Audible version. I read it aloud. But if you're having fun with me, we'll have fun in the book as well.
I love it.
That's great. And your website, laurensicola.com.
That's the one. So feel free to take a look there. If people are looking for one-on-one executive coaching, group trainings, speaking engagements. I do a lot of keynotes and emceeing events, those kinds of things, which is always fun. And the newest program that I have, thank you for asking, a program called Quantum Leap, and it is for leaders who are in job transition. So many people have been getting laid off, or otherwise they're wanting to find something else. Maybe it's a toxic environment, or they're just burned out from whatever they're doing, et cetera. They want the next chapter in the legacy. So that is a special program. You can check out quantumleap-coaching.com as well. That's for a 90-day transformational program to help you become not just a great candidate, but leverage all the skills you need to be the obvious choice for the next role of your dreams.
And you have a podcast too?
I do. It's also called Speaking to Influence, but it's Communication Secrets of the C-Suite. So I interview executives from all different for-profit, nonprofit kinds of organizations, and they're speaking not about their industry or their role per se, but it's all about the role of communication as an essential leadership skill and how they learned those lessons, the easy way, the hard way, and the not so direct way sometimes, but it's a lot of fun every time.
That's great. Awesome.
Wonderful.
I can't thank you enough. This has been a wonderful
Laura,
conversation. I'm glad
thank you for your time.
that we
Really.
connected.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
I had a
you.
great time. Anytime. I'd be happy to come back.
And thank you all for watching.